My name's Ed Riemitis from the Beaver Lake Improvement Association, and we're here today at Galleons Beach in Derry as part of the annual Frost Festival, and I'll now demonstrate for you the basic form of ice fishing. The first part of ice fishing is what you actually ice fish with. Some people prefer to use a regular rod and reel for ice fishing. Majority of the people use what they call a tip-up. Some fishermen just call it a trap. Tip-ups are generally made of either wood, plastic. Years ago, the Indians actually used birch twigs as tip-ups because they were so flexible, they were so soft, and they also were so common here in southern New Hampshire. I prefer to use the wooden one because on a cold winter day, wood tends to be a lot softer and more flexible than a plastic one. They actually now make a tip-up with a pager transmitter on it, so when the flag goes up, it actually pages the fisherman to come check his tip-up. Most tip-ups are foldable so that they'll fit in a bucket. You're allowed by law to set up 6 tip-ups per licensed fisherman in New Hampshire. And you're also not allowed to leave your tip-up at any time. You have to be within line of sight to make sure that you're monitoring each hole or each tip-up. The actual hole that you drill through the ice is drilled with an auger. There are 3 types of augers. This auger here is an electric auger. It runs off a regular car battery. They're not too common here in New Hampshire because you're not allowed to bring a car or a truck out on the ice. They're very common out in the Midwest, in the Great Lakes area, because you are allowed on most lakes to bring out your truck. And they actually sell extension cords to plug in to your truck battery. You also have gas-powered 2-cycle augers, and you can also use the old-fashioned hand auger, which is my least favorite, obviously. I prefer the electric auger because it always starts up first thing in the morning. On a cold winter's morning, nothing more frustrating than getting out in the ice and you can't get that gas 2-cycle engine to start. What you do, the safe way to drill a hole in the ice is you spread your feet about 2 feet apart. You extend your arms, the ice auger in front of you. You make sure it's perpendicular, 90-degree angle to the ice. And make sure you control the auger once you start drilling. The reason you need to control it and not let it get away, if you let it start going back and forth into the ice, that causes the ice to vibrate. Vibrating ice tends to crack around you. So try to keep it steady as possible. Here we go.
How deep do you figure that to be?
The first thing you do once you drill a hole, no matter what time of year it is, no matter how cold it is you check the thickness of the black ice, which is the lower part of the ice on the water side. The reason you do that is the thickness of the ice varies on every lake, depending whether there's running water or still water. You can't assume that if you're in shallow water that the ice is actually going to be thick and safe enough. Fish and Game and Marine Patrol expect the thickness of the black ice before you drill a hole in it to be a good 10 inches to drill a safe hole. To walk on black ice they suggest a minimum of 6 inches to walk or ice skate on the ice. The top, you cannot go by the top layer. That's a combination of snow, sleet, water, rain, whatever, and that is not considered safe ice. So you always measure from the bottom up, and as soon as the ice changes color, that's the actual thickness of the safe ice. What I prefer to do when I clear the hole, and if you notice some fishermen don't, some fishermen prefer to put their tip up right on top of the slush pile. I like a nice, flat, even surface. That way, on a windy day, the tip up will not rack and wave back and forth and vibrate on the ice. So I push all the slush away from the hole, make it nice and flat, and then I take the slice and the ice chips out of the water hole itself. That prevents it from freezing up too quickly. Today's a beautiful day out here in the lake. It's about 40 degrees, so the holes aren't really freezing up. I was up fishing here yesterday, and my holes were freezing up within the first half hour. So you clear all the ice chips up. You grab your tip up. The tip up just has a basic aluminum reel with a clip and a rod that extends up to the top flag. What most ice fishermen use for bait is what they call a shiner. Shiners are bred south of here in Georgia, North Carolina, in open waters. They send them up here, keep them in oxygen tanks. A shiner will grow up to 1 pound in open waters. I prefer to use the small and medium-sized shiners in this area of the state because the majority of the fish tend to be less than 1 pound that you catch. A smaller fish cannot handle a bigger shiner. What I like to do is set my hook through the back gill of the shiner. I run it through the tail, hook it twice. That allows the shiners to still live for about a half an hour to an hour in the cold water. And then I let the shiner do the rest of the work. You are not allowed to use lead weights in New Hampshire and in most states to weight down the shiner. So I just let the shiner take off on its own because of lead poisoning for birds. Usually at the end of the day, you'll notice a lot of seagulls and crows will circle the lake when they see ice fishermen out there looking for dead fish. And if they swallow, especially a duck, which could be consumed by a human, if they swallow lead weight, could be lead poisoning. The human eats the duck and could be lead poisoned. So that's the reason. I believe it's a federal law. You lower the line in the hole till it stops moving and no longer becomes straight. It's not very deep where we are right here. We're right off the beach. The water is probably only 4 or 5 feet deep. You reel it back. You set the rod, you pull up the flag. You set it on the hook. Make sure on the tip. I like to set my flags up, but it's not a windy day today. But if it was a windy day, I always like to set my flag up downwind so that the flag isn't blown off the mount by the wind, causing a false alarm. I carefully put it in the hole and I wait. Once a fish taps at the bait, most fish like to run with their prey. They don't swallow it right away. They run with their prey. They go anywhere from 10 to 20 feet. Once they feel safe, they swallow their prey. So if you notice out on the lake, when a flag goes up, normally an ice fisherman walks slowly over towards the tip up, He waits for the reel to stop turning. He gives it another 30 seconds, and then he gives it a firm tug, one firm tug, to see if he can set the hook in the fish's mouth.